regional bodies. They are our first port of call, the Jumuiya, SADC, and the AU. The charters of all those bodies proclaim that they support the rule of law, democracy, and human rights. To accept the Tanzanian sham election is to abandon the principles upon which they are founded. And as citizens of the continent, we are telling these regional and sub-regional bodies I have mentioned, this is your chance to demonstrate your usefulness to the continent. Anybody who tries to legitimize what has happened in Tanzania does not wish Tanzania well, does not wish Africa well. We need to overcome the impunity that has become king in the region of East Africa and in parts of Africa. We are looking for leadership from the AU, from the sub-regional bodies, and because they look, the AU chairman, commission chairman, already appears to congratulate Tanzania, although his observers clearly did not observe anything. The message they are telling us is that we are on our own. There is more need than any other time for solidarity across the East African region, the African region. Even as we ask the international community, charity begins at home. I wish our brethren in Tanzania well. Let them continue using their agency to try and get a better Tanzania. We are not out of the woods here in Kenya, nor is neighboring Uganda. We have to keep in solidarity with one another. I'm really, really saddened by the mass killings. The photos we have seen here and others that we have been able to access of people piled up, dead bodies piled together without any dignity at all. It's really so terrible. Is it worth it? Is leadership worth so much killing, so much bloodshed, so much suffering? And that question goes to Mama Samia.
What is the law of evidence regarding such footage of the presented and the internet is shut down? The possible record
it's just a certificate that is needed by the person who records. And obviously, these are records taken by people on the scene, whereas we may not disclose their names now. At an appropriate time, there will be people who can verify when the images were taken. If you're talking of legal steps, wanton killing is illegal in Tanzania, just like in Kenya, in Uganda, in any country with a progressive constitution. But even the elections, there is also the court of public opinion, which is the highest court if you ask me. So despite shutting down communication in order to hide what is happening, these images are circulating, not just abroad, but in Tanzania itself. And the people know what is happening. And we expect that in the court of public opinion, they will be acted upon and internationally. So there is the International Criminal Court. There are also regional mechanisms which are going to be put into action, including the African Commission or Court on Human and People's Rights. We have several. I talked about the region first and the sub-region before we even take steps out there.
Actually, something that Mother said, which about the regional bodies, the African Commission on people's and human people's rights itself said that they are human rights violations. And then the AU Commission says the elections are free and fair. So you can even see that there is confusion. AU is speaking like, so to speak, through two mouths. And there are questions. And as Martha said, there are many courts, including international ones.
And just to encourage those who work in those bodies, what is the worst thing that can happen to you as an officer of those bodies for speaking truth to power? If you lose your job, you go back to your home, but you will have defended human rights. You will have done Africa and the world proud. I wish them courage, because that is what is lacking.
Thank you very much. My name is Fabio from Work Control and this is just sharing those that it was a legitimate initiative. How are we then going to find a rapporteur in this nation, bearing in mind that as the constitution of Tanzania says that the presidential candidate has been declared, there is no other way over to. So what next for Tanzania?
They can go back to the drawing board. Laws exist to serve people, not people to serve the law. Tundu Lissu is incarcerated on politically motivated treason charges merely for saying that it was necessary to amend the constitution to allow those aggrieved by electoral results to go to court. His party was barred, Chadema, from participating in elections because of questioning sections of the electoral code. So this is a place where people are gagged. You can't talk. Something will have to give. The people have already shown they are fed up. They are saying no. We saw thousands on the streets. Even with the internet shut down, we are still able to get those images. So it's the question, if Tanzania is, the leadership in Tanzania is silent, why is the sub-region and region of Africa silent? We were very excited when Cyril Ramaphosa, president of South Africa, gave leadership to the world to condemn the genocide in Gaza. This is the making of genocide in Tanzania. It's a bloodbath. Who will give the continent leadership? South Africa may forgive us for demanding too much of them because they have shown that they have the mettle before. But the question is, who is going to rescue this continent? Do we have leaders, or is it a club of authoritarian people who want to retain power, even at the expense of the lives of their citizens? These are the questions.
Can you be slightly louder, please?
Kenyan teacher, reported there. Are you aware? I think we've all seen it in the papers, so we are waiting for confirmation from here. But Tanzania must be held accountable, and Kenya must follow up to know the circumstances. But Kenya has been so disappointing lately. We still have Bob Jagi and Nicholas Oyo in Tanzania, in Uganda, and the authorities have not shown any follow-up. So we are telling them they continue to earn salaries from our taxes. Could they pull up their socks, follow up the reported death of a Kenyan in Tanzania? At the same time, give us answers on our colleagues who are detained in Uganda. We know they are detained by the authorities, but the military denied in court. If they are held by any other security arm, let the government of Uganda confirm and say where they are and what they intend to do with them. Yeah. Closer. if my colleagues allow me, I don't think it is fair at all to ask us to verify numbers while we are seated in Kenya and in a blackout. But the reliable numbers from Chadema, from their own statement, is 700 and counting. And I would believe them because President Samia's government is not giving any information. So seeing the images and what is happening, I would say Chadema's numbers are reliable. And on what is happening in East Africa, and my friends will add to it, it looks like now it's not a jumuiya to serve the people. It's a jumuiya to retain those in power, in their positions, by whatever means. How do you explain the silence of William Ruto, who is now the current chair of the jumuiya? What about the silence of other neighbors? You know? Silence in certain situations is complicity. And if you could allow us to end.
Let me just clarify and combine what you had asked and the question about truth, evidence. There is objective truth, which is what people have experienced. And in circumstances where the environment is constrained, you then must go with what people are sharing as their subjective truth. So where people are showing you bullet wounds where they have been shot, and those who come from the journalistic background, there are ways in which you can backtrace. You can backtrace those images and check their authenticity. In the event that you might suspect that they are not authentic, we can do a little more work around that. But these are subjective numbers and statistics being shared as lived experiences. Now, do we want to raise them to the level where, in the process of having a public conversation, we turn this into a trial of the victims? I think that would be unfair. We first of all must give voice to victims. We must allow them to say what has happened to them. And what they are saying has happened to them is that they've been shot, they've been injured, they've been killed, they've been violated. From even just the footage that we've watched here, you can see that the sites where many of them were injured look to me, for those of you who are little familiar with Tanzania, they look like very domestic situations. They look like these were attacks that were being perpetrated in people's homes. And I think I invite you to look at that data and that footage again. But again, this question that I think the Honorable Karua spoke to is that the East African community is not a confederacy of dictatorship. It is actually a coming together of citizens. So the citizen solidarity, which has been evident over the past 2 years when there are cross-border abductions, the abductions have occurred in Kenya, others have occurred in Tanzania, others have occurred in Uganda. It has raised public anger about the fact that this is not what defines us as a community. This is not what defines us as Africans. And what we are seeing is an aberration that is being perpetrated by those in leadership.
And even from what we witnessed, like in Namanga, like neighboring Malawi, you get, East Africans moving, particularly young people, moving from, their country going into Tanzania for purposes of solidarity. So you can see that the citizens themselves have this notion of East Africa is something that belongs to them, not just to leadership. And obviously, even from this footage and from what we have witnessed and heard and learned, it's really young people of the continent who have no employment, no livelihood, and they're the majority of them. And they're just saying that they can't continue in this situation that their government, their leaders are subjecting them to. So I think even the leadership of East Africa, of Africa, needs to really, and the AU just killing these young people. You have to somehow listen to them, provide for them, and when these governments are unable to manage their countries, they therefore believe that the easier way to do is just to be autocratic, and that's not abolition. That's not going to be abolition, and it's evident from Madagascar, from Cameroon, from you name it. It is evident that these young people must be spoken to.
I think
Thank you.
we can just let it lie there. If
Yes.
you not then you go with questions, my dear brother.
Yes.
How is